Thank you for joining us for today's presentation. We are excited to present this demonstration on the U.S. Government Consolidated Screening List to you in partnership with our panel of government experts. Before we begin, I'd like to mention a couple of housekeeping items. All attendees are in listen-only mode, but questions may be asked by typing them into the webinar toolbar at any time. Questions will be addressed at the end of the presentation. Participation is worth 1 CES credit only, and transcripts will be updated within 2 weeks. Also, please note there is no presentation to download because this webinar will be a live demonstration. However, we will be uploading this webinar to our website afterwards. I am thrilled to welcome back Jerry Horner, Director of the Office of Technology Evaluation at the Bureau of Industry and Security. Employed by the U.S. Commerce Department for over 24 years, Mr. Horner joined the Bureau of Industry and Security in the Office of Technology Evaluation in 2006. In the summer of 2012, Mr. Horner was named Director of OTE, where he leads BIS's data mining responsibilities that contribute to the evaluation of BIS's dual-use export control system and assessment of the U.S. defense industrial base. Mr. Horner is BIS's liaison with the Census Bureau and U.S. Customs and Border Protection on all matters related to the automated export system. He is also BIS's representative to the International Trade Data System Board of Directors and a member of the CBP Automated Export Task Group of the Automated Commercial Environment Trade Support Network. We are honored to have him as well as our other speakers here with us today, and without further delay, I will turn it over to Jerry.
Thank you, CC, and thank you to all of the callers that have joined us for today's webinar. We hope you find this demonstration and presentation today on the U.S. government's Consolidated Screening List very beneficial to your operations. I want to first also introduce the speakers that will be with me today. We have Pat Kerwin from the Trade Promotion Coordination Committee, as well as Stuart Ridgeway from the International Trade Administration. And I'll further introduce them before they speak today. Before we talk about the Consolidated Screening List, I want to first mention that for those freight forwarders and exporters on the call, when determining if an export license is required, companies need to answer 4 questions. And those questions are, what is my item? Where is my export going? How will my item be used? And who are the parties involved in the export transaction? Today's webinar will focus on that last question. Certain individuals and organizations are prohibited from receiving U.S. exports. Others may only receive goods if they have been licensed, even for items that normally do not even require a license, based on the item's Export Control Classification Number, or ECCN, and the Commerce's country chart, or based on an EAR 99 designation. For example, denied persons list is a list of individuals and entities that have been denied export privileges. Any dealings with a party on this list that would violate the terms of its denial order are prohibited. As a benefit to the export industry, the White House administration urged responsible U.S. government agencies to consolidate the 6-party screening list into one. The Department of Commerce took the lead on this initiative and created in February 2010, as part of the administration's export control reform, what is commonly referred to today as the Consolidated Screening List. The current list is on www.export.gov/ECR. The existing Consolidated Screening List allows users to download a CSV or text file into Microsoft Excel and search the names of the companies they are doing business with. They can easily search and use the search and find function in Microsoft Excel. This list is updated very often, so companies should check for updates often. This list only has 6 lists comprising the Consolidated Screening List. They include 3 from the Department of Commerce, including the Denied Persons List, the Unverified List, and the Entity List. 1 from the Department of Treasury, the Specially Designated Nationals List, and 2 from the Department of State, the Debarred Persons List and the Non-Proliferation Sanctions List. If you look up on the screen, you actually see the website export.gov/ECR and the information related to the Consolidated Screening List. Although it is not a regulation, guidance and best practices suggest that companies screen against those companies you deal with. It is also a good idea if you are a manufacturer to screen against companies involved in domestic sales against the list, because you never know if the company you sell to may resell overseas. Over the past year, the agencies responsible for administering these lists were approached by the International Trade Administration of the Department of Commerce, who is responsible for hosting the export.gov website. ITA proposed an initiative to create an application programming interface from the data in the Consolidated Screening List and work on a much more user-friendly search engine for the list. In doing so, the list has been expanded to include 3 additional lists of the Department of Treasury, including the Foreign Sanctions Evaders List, the Palestinian Legislative Council, and the Sectoral Sanctions List. Last Thursday, November 20th, the Secretary of Commerce, Penny Pritzker, announced in a press release the creation of such new tools through collaboration with other federal agencies. The Secretary was quoted as saying, "We have made crucial information available to businesses and entrepreneurs in a free and easy-to-use format. The consolidation of screening lists also helps businesses ensure they are not working with bad foreign actors, thereby strengthening the United States national security." This initiative is an example of one of our key priorities at the Commerce Department to unleash more of our data to help businesses make better decisions, innovate, and become more globally competitive. So for the remainder of this webinar, I hope you enjoy this. Hopefully it will ensure that you maintain compliance with U.S. export laws and regulations. Without further ado, I would now like to turn the webinar over to Pat Kerwin, the Trade Promotion Coordination Committee, who will speak to you regarding export promotion.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Pat Kerwin. I'm the director of the Trade Promotion Coordinating Committee, which is the entity that comprises 20 federal agencies who are all involved in exporting. It includes, obviously, BIS. It includes Ex-Im Bank and your alphabet soup of federal agencies. And I wanted to talk to you briefly about the National Export Initiative and the next iteration of the National Export Initiative, NEI Next. Secretary Pritzker announced this in May of this year, the NEI Next, and I wanted to sort of highlight 2 things that my colleague Stuart Ridgeway will soon talk about. And API is just, this API and the Consolidated Screening List is just one example of things that will be coming out in the future. Under the NEI, some of this NEI Next version, 2 things that we're going to focus on is one, how to make your next shipment easier, and that of course involves ITDS and the work that DHS is doing on single window and all the agencies that are engaged in that process right now. And second is, how do we get more actionable information out to U.S. companies? And it happens to be that this API, this Consolidated Screening List, actually is a check or a project that we've been working on that actually encompasses both those objectives. They both should help make your next shipment a lot easier, as well as getting out more actionable information to U.S. companies that they would find useful. I just also want to say that we'll be coming out with more of these types of products and services over the next year, and whenever we do this kind of thing, we hope to work with our partners at NCB FAA and do more of these webinars in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kerwin. Without further ado, we are fortunate today to have a representative from the International Trade Administration, Stuart Ridgeway. Stuart is a senior consultant with the International Trade Administration, and he manages several projects for opening ITA's trade data and making it available for use by web and mobile app developers. He is committed to helping U.S. companies use government data to improve their business. With that, I turn it over to Stuart Ridgeway.
Thank you, Jerry. So I want to pick up where Jerry left off, and I'm going to bring up the export.gov website again so you all can take a look at what we've had to work with for the last several years. So with export control reform, we made a great stride forward by bringing in 6 lists from 3 different agencies like Jerry described and making those available as a spreadsheet or as a text file, as you can see down here. ITA, with whom I work, is responsible for providing that information on export.gov. One of our initiatives, which I'll get into a little bit more detail later, is to make ITA's public data available much more broadly. And that also includes the data that we host for BIS, for other TPCC agencies. So one of the first things we saw was that there was an opportunity to take the consolidated screening list and basically free it from the spreadsheet that we have it in right now. So a lot of you and your customers are probably used to coming to export.gov and downloading the spreadsheet and doing the searches on a daily basis probably. What we wanted to make available to you was an additional opportunity to include that search capability within your own enterprise systems and make that same search available to your own customers on your websites. So what we've gone ahead and done is taken the same information that is available on the spreadsheets. We've actually gone to the source agencies and pulled in all of that data. So we go to Bureau of Industry and Securities data management systems and grab the entity list, the unverified list, the denied parties list, and bring them directly into the new platform that we've built. We've also gone to OFAC to get the 4 different Treasury lists and to the State Department. During this process, we added 3 new lists, as Jerry mentioned, from OFAC to be included in the consolidated screening list. So we now actually are able to publish 9 lists in one consolidated feed. What I'm going to show you is really meant for developers to see, but I want to show it to you anyway so you can take a good look at what we now have available coming down the pike. As Jerry mentioned, the Secretary announced that we've released the Consolidated Screening List as an API, which is known as an Application Program Interface. So that's a technical term that you may hear thrown about a lot, but it basically means a data feed that a developer can use to get access to information. So what I'm showing you right now is our trade developer portal for ITA. This is developer.trade.gov. And this is a website where you would send your web developers, your mobile app developers, to get access to the data that ITA provides. What I'm showing you right now is the page that we've built to help developers learn how to work with the consolidated screening list. So we have a basic, the basic introduction on what the CSL is, why it's important, and then as you get down further, you get into the technology pretty quickly. Not to overwhelm you with data, but just know that your developers will be able to use this to bring in the consolidated screening list into your systems as needed. There's a different bit of a mind shift here now. So instead of the assumption that export.gov will host the spreadsheets, what we're hoping is that by allowing you direct access to the data, you can integrate it into your systems. And what I mean by that is, like I said, you can publish a similar search engine, and I will show you this in a second, on your own websites. So your customers can go to your own website, do a search on the different parties that are involved in an exporting transaction, and determine whether or not any of those parties are on the list. So you know what, I'll go ahead and do that right now. So from this page, you can actually take a quick look at a demo search application that we built. This is very basic. demonstration of how you can use the search list, so the consolidated screening list. So if I type in a keyword, I know there's a company called Brilliance from China. It does a very quick search, and 2 different companies with the word Brilliance come up. You can see that this company actually has 2 addresses associated with it. You also may see that there are various aliases on some of the parties that we include in this list. What I can also show you is the 9 different lists that we pull from. So we have the denied parties list, we have the entity list, we have the foreign sanctioned evaders, with the ITAR debarred list, we have the non-proliferation sanctions list, Palestinian Legislative Council, sectoral sanctions identifications, and specially designated nationals. So we pull all 9 of these lists into our platform every day and consolidate them. So if any of your users or your IT folks themselves do a search, they will be searching all 9 lists at once. At the same time, so you have the ability to do a search on a keyword, which could be the name of a company, it could be the name of a person, it could be a city in which they do business. You have the 9 sources that I showed you, and then you also have the ability to do a search on all the countries on the globe. So this makes it a lot easier for your users to really target. So if they're going to start exporting to Russia, they can do a quick search for all of the folks on the list who may be based in Russia, and now there are 234 results that you can find there. And those 234 results span all 9 lists. I want to drive the point home that what you're seeing right now are live searches. They're very fast. That's one of the reasons why we've built the platform that we've built, is that hopefully this is a seamless experience for you and your users, that when you go ahead and use this API, this data feed, to bring the data into your own websites, it's very transparent to the users. I'll do one more search just to demonstrate. So I click search, and in less than a second, we have 247 results. And we have lots of information. These folks have 5 different addresses that they do business under. So you get a real good sense quickly on whether or not the parties involved are people that you can work with. We also include as resources the actual source of the data that we're pulling from. So in this example, this is being pulled from the entity list. You can go directly back to the Department of Treasury and look at the original data feed from where we got the data. And you can also look at this URL for more information about the entity list. So if your users are not experienced with doing screening, you can provide that additional information to them so they know how to stay compliant. What I was saying before about a change in how you might do business is, again, instead of directing people to export.gov, asking them to download the spreadsheet every day, instead you can integrate it into your workflow. So if you are starting to, as your new businesses are starting to export, you can integrate the consolidated screening list check into your own process. So a business decides that they're going to ship to a particular country at a particular address with and work with the following parties. You can enter all that information electronically through your system, do a quick search on the consolidated screening list. As you see, you can get a very quick response whether or not any of the parties involved are on the list. And this can be transparent to your users or not. So if you want them to do their own searches, you can build a very simple search engine like we have here on your website, or you can just do the search for them yourselves, depending on what works best for you all. So our goal is to make the information easily available and seamless, like I said, to your users. So that is what we have right now for the consolidated screening list. I wanted to let you know also that what I mentioned earlier is this is a part of a larger project that ITA, the International Trade Administration, is doing to make public data available for use for companies like yourselves. We have, as you look on the Trade Developer Portal right here, I actually have 6 data sets that are open right now and available for you to use. So we have our market research that's available. We have the Consolidated Screening List. We have trade events. We have trade leads. We have ITA's listing of offices and centers, and we also have our news and articles available. So our thinking here is that we would like to broaden the reach of ITA's content. We know that we have valuable content to share that you all can take advantage of. And the new model really is to get out of locking information into a website such as export.gov and sharing that information as widely and as broadly as possible. So we will continue to have either export.gov or our partnership with business.usa.gov to have our information available. At the same time, we are opening up this information for you to use on your own websites, on your own mobile applications, however it makes sense for you. So I'll do a quick demonstration. We have a trade events API, again a data feed with all our trade events. We are actually aggregating events from several different sources as well. So we have ITA's own events. We also have the direct line events from the State Department. We have exporting events from the Small Business Administration. We have events from Ex-Im Bank, and we have events from USTDA, the Trade Development Agency. So we do that aggregation for you, and then we provide the data as a single data feed. Again, this is very helpful for your developers to go to one place, get the data that they're looking for, and easily integrate it into your websites or your mobile apps. And just one more quick example. We have trade leads available. Again, depending on how you want to present the information to your users, if you have a robust website where you are providing a lot of information, a lot of value add to your customers, you may think about including some of the ITA information, such as the trade leads. We aggregate these trade leads from ITA, from the State Department, from several actually foreign governments that have overseas opportunities, and make those leads available as a single feed. The idea being that if you want to add additional value to the services that you provide to your customers, you can integrate this into your website as you see fit so your customers can take advantage of them. Hopefully they will increase their exports and, of course, increase their use of your services. So this is just a broad stroke of what we have currently available on our developer portal. We have more data sets that we are looking to open up. We are also looking to work with other trade agencies to help them open up their data. Not every agency is equipped to do this. We've gotten our head start going, so we're looking to share our expertise with other agencies and make that data available to you. So in recap, I do encourage you to ask your developers to take a look at the developer portal that we have. I'll bring it back to the home page. Encourage them to take a look at this. We have a couple of examples under our app gallery of other organizations that are using the data to bolster what they have on their own websites and to really add that extra value to the services that they provide. So please ask your developers to take a look, see what works for them. We're also looking for feedback from yourselves and from your customers as to what other information and data does ITA have or other trade agencies have that you would be interested in. What would help you all do business better? What would help you encourage U.S. exports? That's what we're looking for. We would like to we would like your help in prioritizing the next data sets that we go and open to. So with that, I want to hand it back to Jerry and answer any questions that you might have.
Great, thanks, Stuart. Very good demonstration. Appreciate all the efforts from the International Trade Administration in working with the other 3 government agencies on the consolidation of the screening list. Just one reminder to any of the callers, attendees to the webinar today that are currently using the CSV and text files that are downloadable from export.gov/ECR. Those 2 downloadable files do not incorporate the 3 additional lists that are currently in the API and in the search demo app that are on developers.trade.gov. So you do have a limitation if you continue to use those probably until January, when we make improvements to the export.gov ECR website to include those 3 additional lists in the screening list. So I want to thank everyone for attending. We are going to answer the questions that have been posed to us through the webinar. And please stay on, because some of these may also be of interest to you. Okay, so the introduction spoke of 6 lists. That's correct. But Mr. Ridgeway was speaking of 9 lists. So that is correct. One of the enhancements of this enhancement to the Consolidated Screening List and this new trade or Consolidated Search Engine and the APIs, that we added 3 additional lists from the Treasury Department to the original 6 lists. And those were the sectoral sanctions list, the Palestinian Legislative Council, as well as the foreign sanctions evaders. So now when you're accessing the list of 28,000 entries, you are actually seeing 9 lists from U.S. government agencies. Okay, if we create our own search engine, will it update automatically when there are changes made to the list?
So I'll take that question. Yes. So what we do is we pull in the data from each of the 9 source agencies or the 9 source lists, and we aggregate them every single day. So when you do a search, you will be getting the most up-to-date information that we have. You don't have to do any updates on your end. So if BIS makes an update to one of the lists, we will grab that information, we will grab that update, and we'll make sure that it's available for you as well.
Yeah, I'm going to ask Stuart my own question. That Stuart, when you grab the information from each of the government agencies, at what time of the day do you grab that information?
So it spans, because we are located on the East Coast. We do it after midnight for our time. So it's between midnight and 6 that we grab it. So typically, we will have that information updated within 10-20 minutes. However, if after we've grabbed the information from BIS, say in this example, if they make an update later in the day, we won't have that update until a few hours later when we do the pull at midnight again. So there is a possibility of up to a 24-hour lag if you do a search on the list that we have. So we always encourage people to go back to the original source of the list. So that's why we include those 2 links to the original sources, so your users can be extra careful in making sure that they're in compliance.
Great, thank you. Next question is, now that the government has developed this capability, is there any plan to incorporate screening into the automated export system? And the answer to that question is there currently are no plans to incorporate that screening, and I believe the reason is we need to be, the government needs to be able to make sure we strike the right balance. When we vetted this through the trade community before, companies were worried that they would get so many hits on false positives it was actually going to lower the facilitation of their export trade, and the U.S. government does not want to do that. So any future plans to incorporate this into AES will be thought of carefully so that facilitation continues while enforcement and compliance is assured. So thank you, Paulette. Next question is, when will the NEI, National Export Initiative, expire? 5 years? Will it meet its goals?
So the NEI was launched was for 5 years, which ends in 2014. So in December, we're actually overall doing pretty well. Our exports jobs are at about 11.3 million jobs supported by exports. Exports have been about 13.5% now of U.S. GDP, and our exports are now up to about $2.3 billion, up over $1 billion from when the NEI started. And that's part of the point of NEI Next, was the NEI we knew was going to expire at the end of this year, yet trade was still going to be a critical factor for the U.S. government. and going forward. And so the whole idea was we went out and did talk to a lot of customers, a lot of freight forwarders for that matter too, and sort of what were things that they were looking for, what were we missing in terms of the government, and that's where we came up with the NEI Next and are moving forward on that. So it's kind of taking the place, and that will probably last for 2 or 3 more years.
Thank you. Next question, Stuart?
Sure. I see from Rebecca, does the search employ fuzzy logic, or is it just an exact match to the keyword? I'm glad you brought that up. Our first iteration is for exact matches only, but we've heard from many people that fuzzy logic is very important. And what I mean by that is if someone does a search for Stuart and they spell it S-T-E-W-A-R-T, they won't find me right now because I'm S-T-U-A-R-T and I'm not on the list. But the intention is that in the near future we will have the ability either on the developer side or on the user side to expand what the exactitude is of that search. So if you type in Stuart with an EW, you will get Stuart with an STU. You might get Stuart with a D on the end. So allowing people to have a broader range of search results. Again, there's a balance here that we want to be careful about because we don't want to provide too many false positives for the user. So that's what we are actually focusing on right now, and we hope to have that rolled out in the next couple months.
Great, thanks. Next question is from Carol. Periodically, we get an email from export.gov titled Proscribed Party List. Is this the list we are talking about, or is this list of 6 agencies? Okay, so the email notification you're getting is directly from the export.gov ECR website, and that is instructed to go out to every person that is on the notification list when the 2 downloadable files are updated. However, those 2 downloadable files are part of the source of the list that you were just demoed today. So if you get an email from Proscribed Parties List, you can also ensure that that morning the search engine and the API data that is on developer.trade.gov have been updated as well. The one thing that occurs in export.gov ECR is the updates to those downloadable files. Once we get the update from the agency, we try to implement it as soon as possible. So in that case, you may get an update to the export.gov ECR website, and then what will happen is when Stuart picks up that data sometime during that day, then the search engine or the API would be uploaded. So very good question. Is batch screening an option, Stuart?
I'm not sure I know what that means.
That would be, I'm assuming you want to be able to put in a number of companies, maybe a whole list of ones that are in a batch affiliating or something like that.
Yeah. So when a developer fleshes out the capabilities of doing a search, there are many different ways that you can do a search on the data feed that we have. So if we're correct, if you wanted to batch search for several names at once, you do have that capability. It's similar to doing, which I could show you, but we don't need to, is I could enter in several countries at once or several source lists at once and be able to do a search across all of them at the same time. So I hope that answers your question, Rebecca.
Thanks, Stuart. The next question is from Taylor. It's related to having a weighted search, and I think Stuart addressed that in discussing the fuzzy logic concern. You see anything else on there?
No.
No. Okay. Is that all of them?
Yep. I think that's all of them.
All right. If there are no other questions, one thing I would like to do is please urge all those on the call to answer the questions that we have for you. They're very important to us to know the types of freight forwarders and exporters that actually attended the call today. Because there are going to be improvements to the Consolidated Screening List search engine in early 2015, what we'd like to do is come back in 2 or 3 months and do another demonstration, and at that time we'll be able to hopefully see some of the fuzzy logic implementations that Stuart's been talking about. So Stuart, myself, and Pat, I want to thank all of you for joining today's webinar, and happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Thank you.